Hello book lovers and welcome to Book Talk Radio Club. My name is Claire Perkins and today I'm talking to author Ashley Young. Working in environmental education, Ashley uses stories to educate, inspire and capture the imagination. While working with kids who claim to have all the answers, she found she needed a story to address that know-it-all behaviour. So she set out on a big adventure to write her first children's book, The Curious Little Snail. Hi Ashley, first of all welcome and thank you for coming on Book Talk Radio Club.
Welcome, or thank you Claire. I'm excited to be here and thanks for having me on.
That's okay, and thank you for welcoming me too. What a fantastic, now you got me, I'm skipping questions here. Let's try again. Would you like to give Book Talk Radio Club's listeners a brief synopsis of The Curious Snail, please?
Of course. So Serena is a very curious snail who, like most of us, thinks she has all the answers. So one day she stumbles across a giant, delicious leaf, because snails eat leaves, and is just so excited to show it to her papa, and is sure that it is the biggest leaf in the forest. Now her papa asks her how she knows, and that is the beginning of them going off on a great adventure to figure out whether her leaf does indeed come from the biggest tree in the forest. And like all adventures, there are highs and lows and surprises, but it all ends well.
What a fantastic first line to intrigue and draw the reader in. And it says, did you know that if you are very still and listen closely, snails will tell you the secrets of the universe? Wonderful. Would you like to reveal one of these secrets?
Oh, there are so many secrets. Every day we're walking through the world with our eyes open, we're discovering all kinds of amazing things. One secret in the book, without spoiling the ending, is that the slower you move through the world, the more likely you are to see things. There's really magic in the stillness of a moment. I think so often we rush through the day from place to place. Sometimes we drive home and we don't even remember the drive.
Mm-hmm.
And there are such beautiful things happening around the world all the time, right in front of our eyes. And if we just take a minute to slow down and see what's happening around us, we can uncover beautiful things.
Absolutely, it reveals the magic to you, doesn't it?
It really does, yes.
So The Curious Little Snail is also a children's educational book as well as a sweet story. What made you decide to add the educational slant?
Well, I am an educator by trade. My day job, I work as an environmental educator for a botanic garden. And at the time when I was coming up with the idea for the book, I actually was working as an environmental educator out in the Pacific Northwest, teaching 3rd and 4th graders. So I use tools in that venue, stories as tools, in that venue all the time to help teach kids and help them think about things in a different way. Oftentimes as a teacher, you can get tired of hearing your own voice. So it's wonderful to use a story. Kids get transported to a different place. They start empathizing with new creatures, and they can start thinking about themselves through the eyes of the main character of the story. So we use that very often. So when I was in this position, I had a challenge of know-it-all kids, which I'm sure we'll talk about, and I wanted a teaching tool for it. So it was very natural for me to think of the story from the eyes of an educator. And actually, I'm not the only educator who's enjoyed it. Many people have, and it actually won first place in the Purple Dragonfly Book Award for its STEM education resources.
Oh, so, congratulations.
Yeah, it was a wonderful surprise.
The Curious Little Snail addresses some kids' know-it-all behaviour. So how is that addressed in your book?
Yeah, so like I was saying, Serena really embodies the attitude of the 3rd and 4th graders I worked with in the Pacific Northwest. She knows everything. She knows that the leaf is the biggest leaf, and it must come from the biggest tree in the forest. And even when her papa asks her how she knows, she's still convinced that she's right, and all she has to do is prove it to her papa. I think so often, and what I encountered as a teacher, is we'd have kids who would come in and they would know that the bird with the red chest must be a robin, an American robin, even though it wasn't. But because robins is what they knew, and they knew how to identify a robin, they assumed that every bird with a red chest is a robin. I think that this know-it-all behavior is very common in snails like Serena and third and fourth graders, and often adults as well, as we walk through our lives assuming that other people experience and see the world similar to us. And so really, by challenging Serena in the book to think a little deeper about how she knows what she knows and to look for the answers rather than assuming she has them all, is really, really just challenging her to open up her mind and think a little deeper and be a little bit more curious about everything around her.
Well, I was going to ask you next to tell me about Serena, but I think you just did.
A little bit, yeah, but I mean, she's also, I think it's easy when a book or a story is characterizing or highlighting maybe what we could say is a flaw or a challenge or area of growth, it's easy to see that as, oh, well, that's not me. But Serena really is a great snail. She's brave, she's smart, she's determined. Even though she assumes she knows, she also is willing to go look. And there's a point in the book where, much like I was as a child, she was a bit of a perfectionist. And when she gets the answer wrong, maybe, it's hard for her too, and she struggles with not having the right answer. And I think a lot of us can empathize with that feeling of putting your neck out, sticking your neck out there, guessing that you think you have it right, and leading with that, and then finding out you made a mistake. But she's willing to bounce back too. She's a very resilient little snail.
Not only did you write The Curious Little Snail, but you're also the illustrator of the book too. I have to say, your drawings are absolutely beautiful. Do you illustrate other authors' books or just your own?
I have actually. I also illustrated a book called Splat, which is about being comfortable with yourself. It's about a peacock who lives in the middle of a desert and stands out, that's a peacock in a desert, and really getting comfortable in their own skin. So it's called Splat, and it's by Ellen Rainey.
Right. You obviously have a love of snails. Actually, I do too. But why did you decide to use a snail in this particular book?
That is a great question. So I have a little book that I carry with me everywhere, and in that book I capture ideas for stories. And when I was teaching in the Pacific Northwest in Seattle, we lived on an island called Bainbridge Island. I was doing a program called Island Wood, and we drove into town, and we have to take the ferry into Seattle. And as we were driving onto the ferry and parking, a little snail came out from under the hood of our car and up onto the windshield. As environmental educators, we were all very worried about this little snail because we were driving into the city off the island where it lived, and we weren't sure what would happen to this little snail, but we thought we'd just wait and see. And so the snail actually traveled all the way with us into Seattle. As we were pulling off the ferry, it was crawling back down under the hood, and as we returned back to the island, it was still there under the hood with us. So it's a curious mind, an imaginative person starts to think, I wonder what that snail did on that big adventure.
Absolutely. A well-travelled snail.
Very much so.
So what age group is The Curious Little Snail aimed at?
The Curious Little Snail is written at a 3rd, 4th grade reading level, but really it's been loved by all ages, from little kiddos who are just starting to read books, sit through it, all the way through adults.
I love the dedication at the front of your book, which reads, "This book is dedicated to my mother Sheila, who encouraged me to play in the wild and messy places." It's so important, isn't it, to be able to do that as a kid? I personally think it allows the imagination to be used and grow, and of course it's also educational. I remember I used to love exploring rock pools by the sea and used to proudly present the odd crab to my parents, much to the shock and horror of my mother. What's your first memory of a wild and messy place?
Well, my early childhood was in Maine, on the east coast of the United States. And so I also got to play in a lot of tidal pools with sea anemone and sea urchins. And we lived in the forest. And I remember very vividly going out and picking up moss and ferns from the forest and creating caterpillar homes in my mom's Tupperware.
Oh, I did that too.
To the chagrin of my mother, most of her Tupperware were caterpillar homes instead of holding food. But yeah, no, it's such an important thing for kids to be able to go out and be messy, especially in those early years. They're very, very important nature at a young age.
No, very much so, very much so. So do you foresee yourself writing a series of fun educational books for children featuring different animals, or is this a one-off?
Oh, I so hope so. I love illustrating books and writing books and hope to do much, much more of that in the future. I've written a sequel to The Curious Little Snail. I just have to illustrate it. So that's next on the list.
Oh, it's featuring Serena or a different animal?
Featuring Serena. She's going to stow away to the big city. But I'm sure after her next adventure, I'll have to get to know some other creatures. You know, I started out as a zookeeper right out of college, and also have worked in an aquarium. So I have a whole host of animals in my pockets and wonderful, interesting stories and characters that I can pull from.
And all with different personalities. I think that's great. You work in environmental education, or in particular with kids. How has your book been received by your colleagues and, of course, your students?
That has been a super fun byproduct of this process. I wrote it as I was teaching at Islandwood outside of Seattle, and the teachers there continue to use the book to teach those 3rd and 4th grade know-it-all students. The book is in their library that they can pull from, as well as in the bookstore there. I also have teachers here in town in Fort Collins, Colorado, that have integrated the book into their classrooms, which is super fun. And then I have teachers who have actually taken the book with them around the world and shared them with teachers and communities in different parts of the world, as far away as Russia and New Zealand. It's been really awesome.
Yeah, I bet. Fantastic. You've got great reviews on Amazon, including "This book is magical. My 2 sons love reading about these little snails with such special secrets to share," and "Awesome bedtime story for early readers. Illustrations are beautiful." What was the best moment for you, Ashley, as an author and artist too, of course? The first review or the first sale, and why?
Oh, definitely the first review. I think, especially this being my first book, there was a lot of trepidation and nerves around whether children would even like it or if they would want to read it more than once. So I had a friend who gave it to her daughter, and they read it until the pages fell out. It was her favorite book, and she read it every single night, and then, of course, I had to get them a new one. But that review, from a children's perspective, means the world to me, because I wrote it for them, and I wanted them to enjoy it.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. So next on the writing front is the further adventures of Serena. So when is this going to be published?
Hopefully soon. I just got engaged, so I'm a little bit preoccupied planning a wedding, but I'm hoping that next year, it'll be out sometime next year.
Oh, well, congratulations on your engagement.
Thank you.
So where can readers purchase A Curious Little Snail?
Well, they can purchase it on the website, thecuriouslittlesnail.com. They can also keep up to date with all of Serena's adventures there as well. And it's available on Amazon.
Well, that's lovely. Well, thank you, Ashley. Please come back on Book Talk Radio Club when you've published your next book. I'd love to chat with you and hear more. In the meantime, good luck for the future, and thank you, everyone, for listening to Book Talk Radio Club. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, bye now.